Andrew Wilson thinks that moral diversity is bad because it causes conflict and violence, Christian moral homogeneity is good because more babies, and immigration is bad because moral diversity.
Moral diversity is a weakness, not a strength.
Moral diversity is a weakness, not a strength. Okay, let's see. I'm just going to predict what he's going to say here. He's going to say something along the lines of Christianity is better, multiculturalism is bad. I'm going to classify everything that I like as moral as Christianity, and everything that's bad as not Christianity. So he's just going to do the whole no true Scotsman fallacy. He doesn't really have any ground to stand on.
So when you're saying moral diversity is not a strength, are you, I'm assuming, referring to, is this like tied into the nation state as far as like if there's a predominant ideology or ethic system?
It's not a strength for anybody, whether it's a nation or not a nation.
That's completely false. If you read Jonathan Haidt's book, people have different priorities when it comes to morality. Some people are better served if their moral priorities are the well-being of children and compassion, empathy, different modes of valuing and prioritizing different things in your life. So within every single society, within every single household, people have different moral frameworks. So moral diversity isn't necessarily what you value or how you value it, but a complex of a combination of the two.
Okay.
So having a divergence in ethics between people or a divergence in morals between people only brings conflict. It doesn't bring any sort.
Okay, so yeah, here's another claim. Conflict is bad. Conflict is not bad. Conflict is a discussion between what should be valued and what should be prioritized. Moral diversity, which could mean anything really. Moral diversity could be, I prefer to prioritize people's well-being over profits, for example, or vice versa. Every single society has moral diversity within it between people. Every single household has moral diversity because people prioritize things in different ways. Even if there isn't moral diversity, if everything is homogenous, how you prioritize them is different. So the means and then the ends both can differ. He's probably just going to do something along the lines of Christianity is everything good and everything else is bad and give a no true Scotsman fallacy. That's my prediction.
Sort of strength whatsoever.
Okay, so I mean, I'll just agree, but like, what's, because of the time restraints, like, what's like, I guess, the meat of what you're getting at? Like, what's...
So it's probably not a good idea for nations or people like this to import people groups that don't share their same values.
Oh, I should have guessed. This is mostly just going to be a multiculturalism is bad, isn't it? How could I miss that? Oh, so basically he's just going to say, well, immigrants are bad. His claim to Christian ethics being morally superior and being better as a homogenized society, which has never been the case. If you want a conflict, definitely look into Christian history. He's going to make the claim that immigrants are inferior, essentially, because they have non-Christian ethics, even though the majority of Christians, I believe he's Catholic if I'm not mistaken, most of them are Catholic, most of them are far more religious than the average American, most of them have more traditional values, most of them value masculinity and extended family values as far more than Americans. So he's wrong because A, moral diversity is just the inherent nature of humans and every single society. Christianity isn't just everything that you think is good. Even if it was, immigrants are more Christian than Americans in general. And yeah, that should just about cover it for now.
Okay. And I mean, would you agree that America specifically is a bit of a, like,
Yeah.
we brought in a lot of...
Yeah, it's a big weakness that you have people who have different values than the set core.
Well, I hope he's not a capitalist, because capitalism is predicated on the fact that everyone can specialize in different kinds of things. So having moral diversity means that people focus on certain things and have different priorities as far as what the greatest good is. And so conflict mediates that. So if there's moral conflict, it means that people are trying to maximize the good within a society. Just being focused on a single thing is going to mean that other things are neglected. If you're a capitalist, that means that the more people that you have within an organization, the different kinds of values and different kinds of perspectives you can bring to the table. Same thing as specializing in skills. If people have a variety of skills and they specialize, then they're able to maximize the productivity and the outcome of every single individualized section of the economy. So that's pretty analogous.
Or values for America, which I would argue would be Christian ethics.
Okay, but I
Oh,
mean,
there it is.
and I don't want to assume, but I feel like I've heard you mention before that America is one of like the leading countries against a lot of European countries. A lot of what we do is right, and so I'm trying to figure out like,
What do you mean? A lot of what we do is right.
well, I mean that's it would depend on the situation, right? But
Yeah.
The fact that we have the best economy in the world, the strongest military, we have the greatest cultural influence, the greatest position in geopolitics. Are you arguing that everyone else is doing everything much better? All these socialist countries? He's just, his thoughts are incongruent. All he wants to do is say, I hate immigrants, Christianity's good, and then build his point from there. It's not consistent at all.
I don't know your position on America, like where you think we stand on the hierarchy against like the European nations.
We're the most powerful nation in the world. That has to do with the fact that we're isolated for resources and we don't have any enemies on our borders.
Okay, resources has for a very long time not been a huge issue. Not since World War II, as a matter of fact, until recently, since Russia invaded Ukraine, and so international sovereignty is questionable at this point. Let's just say where we thrive is going to be in technological advancement, quick industrialization, and our position on the geopolitical front,
which European nations do. Okay. So the thing is again, even in Europe, this is a big problem.
Hold on, where in Europe is worried about getting invaded? Presumably only the places that he doesn't give a shit about, like Ukraine, Poland. He doesn't care. I'm sure he's with Trump on dissolving NATO.
They have the same problem with what they call Asians that they're bringing in, which are Muslims, not having the same shared ethical value as the population which is there. It's a total weakness.
Okay, so let me dial this back then to the main point. Are you saying that we should continue to keep the countries all segmented, just like let all the Muslims live over here, Christians all live over here, and just sort of like let them duke it out as they will? Or because you mentioned earlier how like
no, I'm saying that bringing in people groups, right, to communities or to nations which don't have the same shared ethical foundations as those nations is going to lead to conflict. That's what I'm saying.
Right, and as we mentioned earlier, though, like I think you kind of seem to allude that like conflict is a pretty natural progression on these things if it's all arbitrary, and so
yeah, but if you
I mean, that's why we have a two-party system. Conservatives and liberals have opposing views on what to prioritize. Would you say that we should only have conservatives? The more myopic you get, the more you narrow down the population and what their values are, the more you're going to start splitting hairs. So this idea that you don't have the same ethical foundations isn't going to be consistent one way or the other.
If you want to reduce conflict, then you probably don't want to bring in people who don't.
You want to reduce conflict that can't be resolved. Okay, you're trying to reduce conflict that will escalate into instability. That's not the same thing. If you have absolutely no conflict, then there's absolutely no way you can grow.
Share your ethical foundations.
But these people exist, right? So I guess, are you proposing? Well, what's your take on immigration then? Like, what do you think an immigration system should look like?
I think that we should probably stop the immigration system altogether. Unless it's for the purpose of work, and instead promote our birth rate increasing through various forms of government, what you would call propaganda, but what I would call rhetoric.
Is he actually suggesting that we are only letting people into the country to increase our population because our birth rate is low? That's not the case at all. It mostly is for labor reasons, and recently the immigration crisis, if you want to call it that, is primarily an issue of mishandled refugee and asylum claims. So that's primarily what we were fighting against. And so when you close the border entirely and you don't accept any refugees or asylum seekers, then it's pretty easy to fix the immigration problem. And also, if you want to increase the birth rate, there's not a whole lot that has been proven to be very effective. If you look at Japan, for example, they have probably one of the lowest birth rates in the world. If you increase like Christian rhetoric, if you increase traditional values, paternalism, then that's actually only going to decrease the amount of birth that happens within a country. Outside of wedlock, I think Japan has a 2% birth rate. 2% of babies are born outside of wedlock because of their paternalistic society. In the United States, that's about 40%. So the opposite of his values would actually maximize the amount of birth that happens and maximize the amount of population output, not the other way around. I mean, even increasing resources like giving paid parental leave, even giving free health care, free child care, none of these things have been proven to be effective.
I know this isn't exactly what you're saying, but I'm sure you can see how this sounds similar to like superior race breeding. Like, you know, well, I mean, you're saying like, let's not bring in outsiders, right? Let's just continue to grow a population of
like
this
Japan.
particular.
Japan doesn't bring in outsiders. Are you saying they think that they're a superior race?
Well, let's go move back for a second. If we want to maximize the amount of Christian values and rhetoric about increasing family and, you know, traditional family values, we would want more immigrants because Americans aren't very Christian. That's it. The more you allow immigration from countries like Mexico, the more Christian our country is going to be. So everything that he's saying is backwards. A, the rhetoric doesn't work because paternalism equals less childbirth. And B, increasing the amount of Christianity in the United States involves immigration. So everything he's saying is backwards.
No, not necessarily.
Right.
But, well, maybe. I actually have no idea. But
no, they don't. It has nothing to do with racial supremacy.
But is Japan necessarily, and I don't actually know, but like, are they anti-outside groups?
Yes, they don't allow immigration except for the purpose.
Japan is actually the number one reason why you would avoid doing everything that Andrew Wilson is suggesting. Ooh, I wonder if he would be in favor of repealing the Second Amendment and increasing gun control laws like Japan has.
He seems to be doing very, very well.
In a lot of ways, right? But I don't think any one system works in every situation, right?
But so the population
Japan,
is
for example,
shrinking
they
faster
have a
than
lot of
everyone
issues
else
with their honor system. What if you bring in outside groups that maybe don't adopt some sort of honor system?
Yeah,
right?
but the problem is if you take away the thing that gives them their culture.
Japan also has like a 99% conviction rate or something along those lines as far as convictions on crimes go. So if you're arrested, you're almost guaranteed to go to jail, and you have no idea how long you're going to be in jail. They don't tell you what your sentence is. There are a lot of drawbacks to having such extreme responses to crime.
Cultural cohesion, like let's say the honor system in this case, and you try to replace it with other things, you begin to destroy the culture itself. That breeds animosity between traditionalists and reformers. This is a big problem, and all it does is lead to conflict every time.
I guess where I would disagree is if we're not...
Okay, well then let's just replace all the traditionalists with reformers instead. So there will be no conflict, we'll just have nothing but reformers. Also, traditionalists have a lot of different ideas on what traditional means, so there isn't even homogeneity within that.
You could certainly argue it's eliminating certain cultures.
Conservatism doesn't mean not changing anything ever, and doesn't mean regression, going back to what we used to have, because society's always changing, and so your values can't stay the same because they don't adapt ever, because like the good old saying goes, you can never step in the same river twice. Conservatism means going step by step and accepting different changes very carefully and slowly and methodically, not changing anything ever or going back in time.
But I think that this is more of like a breeding of cultures, right? I mean, this is how all of human history has evolved, is different groups admittedly having conflicts and then arising at some sort of new culture.
Well, then, right? By this logic, why don't we all just kill each other until the dominant culture is the prevailing one?
Okay, so conflict isn't what causes people to kill each other. It's the repression of conflict and the lack of resolution. So it's an escalation of conflict with no resolution. Okay, so within a society, that's actually how civil war starts. That's what we're kind of seeing right now. So the escalation of conflict without resolution, without anyone trying to de-escalate or come to a mutual compromise or understanding. So I guess he doesn't understand how conflict works either.
I think part of what we learned as a culture is that violence isn't the best way to move forward.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Guy.
Bringing people in who have different ethical standards than you seems like a good idea.
I mean, but like, does it necessarily have to be violent? I can agree that it does happen violently, but if we can conceive
what if the
of
other
ways,
culture is we will be violent if you don't conform to our system?
Well, maybe we don't let those people
in.
Maybe
we don't let those
people in. That's not a moral issue. That's a legal issue. That's a law enforcement issue. Oh my God, we have laws on the books. The fuck are you talking about? Okay, so in summary, we learned that Andrew Wilson thinks that moral diversity is bad because it causes conflict and violence, Christian moral homogeneity is good because more babies, and immigration is bad because moral diversity. This is stupid because conflict isn't always bad, material realities cause violence more than moral differences, Christianity is not morally homogenous and is likely to cause a lot of violence and also decrease birth rates, and immigrants are more Christian and have more babies than US citizens. So pretty much everything he said is pretty stupid.